because I'll cross illegally if I go. They won't. They won't. Oh, I can't talk. No, here we go.
we're,
We're 11. Damn nation.
you're invited anytime.
Yeah, you're invited to this show anytime you want. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, they'll be here in a minute. It's going to take a couple of minutes. Here, let me tag you. That's
Yes.
always what I do at this time. Let's see. Yeah, so I'll go ahead since we're waiting on everybody. I'll just kind of give the rundown of what we're doing at Soulogy, Soul Speaks 5D, and the site. Let's see.
Congratulations.
I don't know if it's congratulations
It's,
or a suicide.
I know what
Well,
you mean.
I think it's kind of reflective of the whole energy. It's like we're okay. It's all or nothing. Do you believe or not?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, but things just
Are
kind
you
of
ready to?
happen. Yeah, it just kind of happened on the like the first. There was a big jolt, and it was like I got this thing about stargates, and Morgan's on this big piece of property, house sitting, and for some reason I just told her, I said, the land's opening up to you. I'm real connected to the land, and but I just said you're gonna see a stargate, and like the next night she took a picture of a stargate and put it on Facebook, uh, and then from there it was like on the I want to say the fourth. We had a meeting. We had another meeting on the 6th. Next thing you know, on Morgan's birthday on the 10th, the day I was given the Soulogy name in 2012, we
Hmm.
launch it. YouTube sending me notes going, hey, we're going to pull your channel. I'm like, hey, you know what? Fuck off. We're going 5D, baby. But
That's right.
yeah, let me just tell everybody. So I'm trying to load up a bunch of stuff this weekend, and I'm trying to do a lot of shows at the same time. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I want to say Stephen Popiotech just became the 200th subscriber. So thank you, those 200 people,
Yeah.
and the other 100 that have visited and registered. And yeah, we're just gonna keep on plugging along, and when we get to 333, we'll bring out a social, like a Facebook type social media community, profile based
Okay.
community. Yeah, so
Okay.
a lot of stuff going on. All right, that's not what we're here to talk about. I just want to give everybody an update. Oh, and we will be broadcasting our full length broadcast through the end of the 24th. And then from there, it'll be on the site, and we'll try to get to as many excerpts as we can get out there and put on, your traditional social media, so people can see what we're doing. Yeah. So we got mi hermana de Mexico.
Yes.
Samantha Rodríguez is in the house, and we haven't talked in what, a year? About a year?
Year and a half,
Hmm.
maybe. I don't
I
quite. Actually, it's kind of a blur.
Yeah, I know everything's a blur. I think it was in about March of last year.
Last
But then
year.
again, it could
Yeah.
have been no. It would have had to have been March of last year. Yeah, because I was in Ark. Well, it could have been 2020. I don't know. Who knows? Doesn't matter. I'm half out of my body today.
Ooh.
So I think the last time we talked. Welcome back. Welcome back. I think the last time we talked, you were. Oh yeah, you were coming out. Was it on Instagram? You were starting to like do some stuff, YouTube, Instagram, or something. You were coming out a lot on video. I remember that. Yeah, you
Was I?
remember that? That was a different. That was two walk-ins ago, right?
Well, it's so funny. There's so many things changing
Yeah.
rapidly, accelerating. What happened, there's been a lot of things happen since we last talked, but right before solstice, I got hit just with a lot of information, and it was just like, you're gonna have to let a lot of things go. You're gonna have to start all over. Like, this is a new ground kind of thing. Like, just open yourself up to a new way And so I've been sitting on it, and obviously, like, it's not like we can just do nothing until, like, there's still things that we can do. And so I've been I'm literally in a rebuilding process right now.
Hmm.
So
I think a
I
lot of us are.
yes, we're getting it's like we're getting redirected, and or just, well, I mean, I guess the simplest way is redirected, to just open up more and do things a little different. And even with you, with the new platform, it's like it's all new. It's new. We can't continue to build or try to build the new with old foundations. And
Yeah,
so,
you
you know,
can't.
it's a learning process
Yeah,
for sure, because we create it as we go.
yeah,
There's
we're
nothing
learning.
out there.
Yeah, we're learning on the run, right?
Absolutely. There's
And
no other way.
you can't build from the old. Not even the first brick, not even the 10th brick. You cannot build from the old. You can't. It's inevitable. It's an all or nothing proposition. We've been talking about New Earth and 5D. The Mayan thing ended because last year, uh, let's not even talk about it. It was wild. It was awesome. But then to come into the solstice, the Mayan calendar ended, the 10-year period ended. And then you get this download. Many people did. It was like we got spit out in 2023, and it was like, okay, there's no doubt this is a totally new place. Everything's different. The way we communicate's different. The way we build's different. Our relationships are different. And every time we deny that, we're going to get slapped in the face, and it's going to go real fast. And like you said, we have to learn, you know, on the run.
Yeah,
But we're doing it.
we are. And there's no other way, that there's no options now. I feel like, and even for me personally, like I was trying, and there were things that were like, oh, well, this is how we've been doing it, or I've been taught. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, you gotta forget everything.
Yeah,
You just have to just flow and trust and just surrender
yeah. It
to
was like it
to
was like. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, surrender, to continue to surrender and do things in a way that they've never been done before.
Yeah, yeah. Or just knowing you can't do what you did before gets more and more
And
uncomfortable.
catching yourself when you kind of
Yeah,
want to go back, or like,
yeah. But yeah, and there seems at the same time like there's all these things happening at once too. Like there's all these different streams. Like for instance, like forgiveness, self judgment, everything's self, and then it then it goes to the external. But yeah, so like you catch yourself, and it's not like the super sin that it was. It's just like, okay, not all control delete, but it's just like, okay, you know what? I know. Okay, you don't have to tell me again. I got it. Or you make another step. Yeah,
yes, it's so much like that. Just continuously becoming aware, catching yourself.
yeah,
Um, where are you coming from? Is this kind of sort of old because you're so used to it, because it's the way that you've been accustomed to? Um, how much is it? What percentage of it is it still old? It's been really interesting. Um, just in my experience, because
yeah.
once I
Everybody.
got hit, it was like, you got to let everything go. And the only thing I kept was my Facebook profile. Every other
Really?
social media platform, website,
Wow.
everything.
No wonder you had a
I did.
brain lapse when I asked you about the other ones. Um,
I did.
so yeah, it was like I look at this life as a summary life. I've always felt like that since I first kind of came into these communities, and A friend of mine told me that one time, and it just took on more and more meaning as time has gone on. And so it seems like last year was like a summary, in the summary life, a summary year. And even like December was a summary month. It was just like everything. So all this stuff we've been talking about, 5D, New Earth, telepathy, self-reliance, responsibility as creators. It was like whatever you downloaded and other people were pulling in around that solstice. And as we went into 2023, it was like, yeah, it's game on now. So walk the talk, right? Kind of thing.
Yes. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I got that message right before 2020. So 2019 was like, okay, you got to step out of your normal job. You got to go full on. And now 3 years later, it just felt like an up leveling of that.
Yeah.
And it was like, keep pushing out, keep pushing yourself out. And it's like the last 3 years were kind of like, they were kind of hit and miss. And we were preparing for now, where it's like the go button is you gotta fully let go. You gotta start new. You gotta start new. You gotta start from a whole new foundation.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the way you said that, because I think another thing that we kept saying, one of the many things, because I guess we were coming into alignment with it to to deeper and deeper degrees, was having to let stuff go. There was a lot of letting go. There was a lot of letting go, and the crazy thing was it was in like like a multiplicity to it. So like say in a relationship, you're not, some relationships you might let go of the relationship. That's probably easier, but other ones you have to like let go of the parts of the relationship that aren't going with you, which is really the parts of me that aren't going with me, right? I mean, because that's the way I see it. We as we were getting through this, even through last year. I mean, we got to admit one thing: our awareness has gotten stronger and stronger and stronger as the days have gone by. And so you saw, and I was guilty. Hey man, I can see people, like I can see their shit, and da 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 da, and because we were seeing it, but then it flipped, I think, and it became like boom, right in our face, and everything kept coming back to us and coming back to us and coming back to us, which wasn't as painful as I thought it would be. Not that I ever imagined it, but it's becoming like riding a bicycle.
Yeah, it's true. The more you open up, the more you own it, and the more you just see it for what it is. No judgment. It just is what it is. It does become easier.
Yeah,
It becomes easier. You just become
yeah,
more open, and you're able to shift out of it.
yeah, and get used to it. So like with the riding the bike metaphor. So like remember when you were a kid and you learned how to ride a bike and you were scared shitless? You know what I mean? So think about that. That's us on this bike that's called life, and we're just scared shitless. You know what I mean? But something's happened. The training wheels have come off. We have a little
Yes.
confidence, and we start to be able to do multiple things as we're riding. And we do the same with cars and stuff like that. But like driving a car, we don't even think about it. We're on the phone. We're singing. We're talking to whoever's in the car, and so the driving the car thing becomes like breathing. And I think that's kind of how I see what's going on here. Like the things that we really had to think about, we're not going to have to think about anymore.
Yes. It's going to be automatic. We're going to know what to do and how to do it. And it is that is, it gets easier, it gets simpler because it's part when you mention about the car, it's like we're multidimensional. We're becoming so multidimensional that we get to see from all different angles and all different perspectives. And then just a part of us that needs to come through and do it, do
Mm,
whatever it needs to do, like it just does it.
mm.
You're right. No thinking. It's just body just knows what to do.
Yeah, the body. Yeah,
Hmm.
and it's all a feel. First we had to like really feel our emotions because they had such deep shadow and gold, therefore gold, but we really had to feel them. I mean, I can't really speak as a woman, but I know women were more in touch with their emotions, and there was a lot of talk about that. Then you started to see men talk about it, and then that becomes riding the bike, and now you start to go, okay, well, like mastery, I guess you could say, for me anyway, the trajectory of it is my body telling me by how it feels in every moment, which is fascinating.
Absolutely. It takes you out of thinking, the figuring out, the trying hard, the pushing hard. It's all that was all mind, mind, mind. And right now it's really fascinating. I'm starting to see we're getting into a level of, and obviously different collectives are in different phases, but you're getting either really, really tired, where we can't think, literally sometimes it's like can't even think, have no energy whatsoever. And um and it's beautiful because we need to get to that space where we are no longer going back to that thinking survival mode. It's just full surrender.
Yeah.
Let your body just flow. Let your body just go. Feel, sleep, however you need to, however long you need to.
Yeah, regardless of what time it is. Seriously.
Seriously.
No, really. It's
Yes. That's one of the
uh,
biggest ones. The sleep cycle is all over
yeah,
the place.
yeah. And then like you can be like I was just half asleep, 45 minutes ago, and then I don't know. I just try not, don't I try to lay down, close my eyes, and didn't work, and I don't know. I just going. Are we running them at the same time? Is the new energy battery turning on while the other one's fluctuating? I don't know.
Yes. Yes. I feel like that's why it's quite intense because there's so many things, there's so many layers.
Yeah,
So many things are happening right now. It's like we can't really grasp everything. It's just the body just is going through so much.
yeah.
The clearing, the feeling, the sleeping, the anchoring, the all the
The
cellular.
eating, not eating.
Yeah, oh my
The
gosh.
eating, not eating.
Yes. Yes.
You get hungry,
And it's
then you go get some food, or you make some food, and then I can't eat.
it's all over the place. And that's just how it's so important to just surrender to that because we're so not used to that.
Hmm.
The mind is so not used to. The mind was like under strict rules of what to eat, when to eat, how long to rest, when to sleep, all of these things, which kept us in linearity.
Hmm.
And so now all of that is shaken out, all of that is just thrown out the window, and we just have to continuously go with the flow.
So during this period, or as time goes on, do you find yourself having more experiences with guides, angels, galactics, elementals, or is it more just you kind of thing?
It's really fascinating. And I'm learning as I go, but it's more, it feels like there's less separation.
Right.
So it's me. It's them in me. So it's me as them. And so it's like this merger, this blur where it's coming from them, but more from an internal
Right.
space inside of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite interesting that it's like, yes, it's me, but it's them too. And then it's all of them. And they just come in and as me, it feels like there's a little bit of a less distinction, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if I do need to connect to specific frequencies, then I do. But it's kind of more organic.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's just something that I noticed, in the work that I do. Well, first of all, I noticed, and even for myself at times, but I've had very interactive experiences too. But there's been times like 2 weeks go by and it's like, what's going on here? Kind of thing. But I've noticed some people were saying, we're reporting post 2022, where did my guides go? And then I think about these young people, because of the young people we've had on over, say, the last couple of years, they only hear one voice. There's more of that. There's some galactic sometimes, but that's more of like visitation. I was on a ship. Um, and so I just kind of wonder about that because I think about my own life. I'm 61, and the the faces of the universe that kind of brought me to the party, I can see how that would have occurred with some of them, like they were prophets in the Bible, even if I
Mhm.
didn't know them. But then there were others because I didn't have anything really galactic happen for a long time, to my knowledge, until I met Morgan, right? Um, but there were some that came in, like Kuan Yin, that I'd never
Mhm.
heard of before. So some of those have come back. The ones that were at the very beginning of that 10 years, I guess, I just figured this out, came back. And that whole thing that whole dialogue kind of started. It was like, okay, are you out there? Because it doesn't feel like it did before. So it felt like, and I thought, well, am I calling them up out of me? But it's, for me, some kind of explanation of, you can't understand this, don't try, just feel it. you know?
Seriously, seriously. It's almost like, well, and I mean, it ties into that. Just keep surrendering, surrender to the process. When, because when you were talking about, it feels like there's different phases. So it kind of was the same thing for me, where the very beginning it was very galactic, and then I went more into, well, then after many years, it was more soul journey. So that's where the emotional clearing, the deep, heavy duty stuff comes through. And then you kind of get ready for the next phase of the galactics to come through. And so it's interesting. Everyone is different and everyone is in their own path. And you just have to continuously surrender to your journey, where you are,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm. Are you uh, are you spending a lot of time alone in solitude?
Well, it's interesting. So the last time we talked, I was by myself, right? I had been almost a year in Mexico by myself, and my parents would come visit me a couple of times a year. And then just 6 months ago, my parents were like, "We're moving back to Mexico too, again, finally." And so as soon as that happened, and they have been talking about this, by the way, for years. They're always like, "Oh yeah, we'll when I retire in Mexico, we'll go back in a couple of
How long were they
years."
in San Antonio?
They were in San Antonio for 22
Wow.
years,
Wow.
and the U.S. 27 years. So we were in Dallas, Fort Worth, Dallas, and then we were in Los Angeles area for a little bit. Um, but it was so fascinating because last year when they came over to the summer, they're like, "Oh yeah, eventually we'll come back to Mexico in like 2 to 5 years." And then 2 months later, the timeline collapsed, and they're like, "Oh, we're going back in 6 months. We're not renewing our lease here." So that just showed me how fast things were moving. I just actually went back to San Antonio last month to help them, clear out the apartment. So now they're back
Wow.
with well, I mean, I say with me, but I'm in their house. So they come back. They came back into the house, and so now I'm with them, which is part of the new phase that we're all in a new reality at some level, I feel. And so it's been nice because in those almost 2 years that I was here by myself, it was going deep, 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 and then getting ready. It's like I had to prepare myself to to be in a reality with them again because I had been, out of their reality or living out. I wasn't living with them for a few years.
Right.
So that was part of my journey that I needed to completely disconnect and completely relocate. And now, they're in another a different phase. I'm in a different phase, but we are now much more ready to like live again in the same reality.
So you're like building with the new, building from the new.
Yeah. Yes.
See, that's what I was talking
Yes.
about. Like you lose the parts ultimately of yourself that aren't going, and then so it's like death and rebirth, I guess. And then,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And there it's a constant thing. It's a continual just dissolution, dissolution, dissolution. A new comes through, new rebirth. Um, and in that 2 year period, I was able to go through it on my own, and it almost feels like now that I'm in a new phase with them, it's like, I have to learn again to live in community, with them, and I feel like there's a phase now because even when I was here for 2 years, it was like just me by myself, just kind of going inside. But now it's like, no, Samantha, now you gotta interact more. Now you gotta get out there in the community and start doing things. So that's also part of the new phase that I feel. Um, doing, continue to do at some level what I'm doing, but also, you know, there's so many people opening up now, and I see this here more and more and more. So many people are opening up. So many people are much more awake than than I realized. And so we're getting ready. The community here, my community here, is getting ready to open up even more for more support, um, in all kinds of different levels. But it's like, I'm getting the push to continue to
right.
open up for more. It's
Well,
time. Yes, it's
yeah,
time.
your sister just took the words out of my mouth, and that's another thing because I've noticed it. I noticed it on the show um, because really we went at a breakneck speed from May of 2018 until probably July. I moved out of our place in June, and so it wasn't the same rhythm, but we would hit it really hard. Like we did, like September, October, we did like 240 shows or something. September, October, December, maybe part of August, and and I noticed in September and October people were coming into the show. They were very humble. They were very human. You could tell they were weathering the. This, you know how you can look at somebody and they're a soul. I'm like they're an old soul. Or they don't have to tell you anything. You can see it. You can see it. They've lived it. Um, and then coming into this year, there's like the whole stripping down, and then there's like this other part coming out, like people are coming out, like you were talking about coming out, and
Yes.
so when she said it's time, because I know Morgan used to talk about that, and I heard other people talk about it in their story. They'd say, I woke up and I started getting trained by the Pleiadians or whatever the situation was, and that they had the higher self, and they would say, one day you're going to be put to work. I feel like that time has come, and I feel like it's no coincidence that we organically uh, doesn't make sense, whatever, that the thing got launched on the 10th of March. And,
Yeah.
not about Soulogy, but about that pattern of energy at least being
Mm.
out there. Or maybe we're aligning or something. I don't know.
There's a lot of us in this, I mean, because there's so many collectives, and I always kind of want to make sure that people understand that there's so many collectives. So there's collectives that it's a go, like just go full on. You gotta jump. You gotta just let go. And there's other. It's almost like there's other parts of the collective that are, that are just opening up. They're just waking up. They're starting to figure things out. They're starting to think for themselves, and stuff like that. And even there's even another collective that was. It almost feels like where I was 3 years ago. Of like 3 years ago is when I went deeper into like the depths of my hell emotionally. That was just the beginning. And it took me about 3 years to just go through that process, that prepared me to where I am now. And so while, yes, I did go all in, I was still in the middle of just, diving deeper and feeling things. Um, and again, with what we were talking about, everything is happening so much and simultaneously that we just have to continuously open up to. We are in different collectives, but at the same time, we're all one collective all at the same time.
Yeah.
And so there will be things that will be pushed into and say, okay, it's time to do more of what you love, do more of your, whatever hobbies, self journey, and while simultaneously continuing to go deep, deep, deep into yourself.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I think that's the part that's become overall. Now that you say that, that's becoming second nature because we're continuing to do it, and it's becoming more familiar. And what does that really look like from a human perspective? Being who you are, being with who you want to be with, doing what you want to do, and I think what we're seeing now, the beginning of, is the fruit of that pursuit or that flow, bring in alignment where you actually see how everything aligns. Everything is a reflection of you and your free will in alignment with the Trinity energy or universal will.
yes. And you start to see that everything that you've been going through was just, it was part of your purpose. It was part of the alignment, the continual alignment to get you more and more and more aligned to where you are now, to
Yeah.
where you're headed, to where you're going, to the bigger goals and the bigger visions and the bigger projects. It does take time. I mentioned this actually earlier today of like, the vision and the dreams that we have, um, the bigger ones do take time. There's a restructuring, there's a reconstructing, there is a full body realignment that has to occur. That's not overnight. And so while you may not physically see it just yet, doesn't mean that it's not happening. It doesn't mean that you're not creating it. It just means that there's a lot of things inside of us
Mm-hmm.
in the journal
Yeah.
that have to be in alignment.
Yeah. All that concentrated gook needs to be blown out, and there have been a lot of physical. People are having some, you know, sudden things, you might just say, happen of all sorts, physically, medically, and I'm getting a lot of people just saying, I know it's energy, and I'm working through it intuitively, that kind of thing.
Yes. There are so many people now opening up to it doesn't have to make sense. I'm just going to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful to see because we've been in this fight and this, oh my God, this doesn't make any sense, and we keep resisting, and you're right. I see this happening too, of more people just saying, okay, there's more here, and I'm just gonna not gonna go into the fear or the panic that I used to go to anymore. Now I'm gonna do things different, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, sure is. It's powerful. Um, so several narratives, energetically speaking. 2022 came to an end. 2023 begins, and it's kind of like, I'll just put it in my own words to kind of put them all together, like the year of the Trinity, like the coming out, like the construction of 5D constructs, as the deconstruction of the old, or whatever you want to put it. And behind it all is this Vesica Pisces towards oneness of the masculine, the feminine, the father and the mother, and then the reconception of the golden child. So the Trinity remixed by the human species kind of thing. You got your mom and dad. I know the Mexican culture. I didn't probably live it as deep. I didn't as deep as you in terms of the familia, right? And you got your mom and dad coming back into the fold after you've gone deep diving for 3 years. Are you feeling any of that? Is that like
Man.
is that is that like a physical metaphor of what's going on for you within you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was fascinating once I started to see the connection of like, oh shit, this is now the union, the continual union within of these frequencies have
Mm.
now allowed me to be, it's, like I was mentioning, the next phase of having them back in the physical and knowing that there's a big purpose for that.
Mm.
They're assisting me, I'm assisting them, consciously, unconsciously. They're in my field, they've been going through a lot of body stuff. In fact, they're going through body stuff right now.
Are they really?
And yeah, yeah. And it's just, feeling into how to support them, what's appropriate, and just feeling into how much more open they are now.
Wow.
This was not a thing back 3 years ago, you
Do they
know.
know that you're a curandera blanca? Do they know about you?
Let's see. They know, but they don't. Like they know, and they've they've come. It's beautiful because I see the more I've come to respect and honor myself, the more respect and honor I get from them.
Wow.
And so while they may not know exactly everything, they can feel and they
Yeah.
are open and they are very respectful, much more of what I do and like, keeping the noise level down when I when I'm working and stuff like that. Um, and so it's interesting because so with my dad, it's more of like an energetic transmission. And with my mom, I do have conversations with her.
Wow.
And, it's been beautiful because she's always been really open.
Mm.
Always. And so some of the things that I say, it's like, oh, she gets it and she feels it. And so knowing how much and how it's like, oh, okay, that's enough. Like, she says, and I can feel it, and it's like, okay, this is enough. Like, this is TMI or whatever
Arcturians
it's
came
used.
in. Arcturians came in last night. Oh no, 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 I'm good. I'm good. Mijita,
Yeah,
no.
like, okay, gotta go. Gotta
um,
shift.
do they ever? Do they ever? I'm just curious. Um, like, because San Antonio. There's a strong, military, federal, kind of a presence there. A lot. Really, it's that kind of propped the city up for many, many years. If you didn't work in a government-related business, you probably weren't working. But for them to go there and regardless of what their occupations were, and to be in that culture and go back to Mexico, and they're retiring, like do they watch CNN and are they like caught up in the world stage? Or are they more self focused on the family and just living peacefully?
Kind of both.
Mm.
Like I see more of like, so the masculine energy in the house is much more in the worldly
Mm.
stuff.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And yeah, and the feminine isn't. But well, a fraction, because obviously they talk about it. But I feel like now coming back home, they're in a new space. They're in a much bigger house now. And so while they may not be too conscious of their inner work, they're doing inner work.
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, you got a little laboratory going. You got like lab rats. What about like because you know all this all the narration, well, people's downloads, which I totally respect, and sharing from an open heart. You know, I mean, this is how these communities have thrived. I mean, but the whole narration of the feminine and the masculine, and all the pushing and pulling and up and down. But there was a real, for a man anyway, I feel like the end of last year that the masculine energy just took a leap, and then I saw other women and men writing about it and doing it. But with that, there was a lot of what pain. There was a lot of false power energy, patriarchal energy being taken away or being let go. And I know a lot of brothers going back a few months that had their moments. I probably had a few myself. Are you seeing any of that energy playing out? Are you seeing the dynamics of your mom and dad as the balance comes into equilibrium collectively?
Yes. Well, and with what you had mentioned, I mean, the distortions are gonna continue to come out to clear and to balance those things out. So I see it with them, for certain energies come through, and I can see the distortion, and I can see the manipulation. I can see like, all right, but it has to come up. It has to come out, so that we can recognize it and no longer play in it. Because if we don't know we're playing, then we can't get out of it. We can't choose something else because we are so unconscious. So even like with them, I mean, especially because now they're fully physically here, it's like, oh, they're reflecting a lot of stuff that I'm still going deep inside myself to feel deper and to go deeper.
Wow.
So that
So
doesn't play as
that's
much.
yeah. So now when you see something like that, like a let's say a loud reflection from either one, as both are energies being presented to you that you're familiar with, obviously, like you said. How does that work? Do you is there a point where, I don't know if there's a right answer. I'm just saying, is there a point where you go, that's them, or is it all of it going back to us? Because that's what it feels like to me. Like no matter what,
Yes.
if I'm saying
Right.
that's them and not me, that's obviously separation. Or if I'm saying they're that, then I'm taking a position of superiority or inferiority. Everything seems to be coming right back, like no exception.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I'm in the same, you know, that knowing has been very deeply what has been coming through for me. So it's interesting because it just depends on where I am in that reality. So for instance, like if I'm in my room and then they're in the kitchen and they're just having it out,
That's not yours. Only
then
the
well no,
enchiladas.
it's funny because I know that it's mine, but because I'm not in the reality with them, like I'm not in the kitchen having this conversation, then it's easier for me to just stay in my room and work things out
Mm,
internally.
okay.
Now, not to say that it's not as easy, but like if I'm in the so I'm not gonna come out of my room and do something.
Right.
So I'm separate, I'm
I
in my
got you. I got
room.
you.
I get to work through things without them.
Yeah, I
If I'm
got you.
in the reality with them and stuff goes haywire, then I have to continuously become super present to know what's appropriate to do in that moment because it's in my reality, it's in my face, it's like right here.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be things that I'm going to need to do. So things to say or just feel deeper into things multidimensionally so that the field just clears and I could just like balance the energy out. And it's been really fascinating to see how like sometimes it's just even while I'm in the reality with them, I'm working through a lot of things internally and I could see how like all of a sudden just peace comes through, right?
Mm.
And then there's other realities where I'm gonna have to say something. I'm gonna have to speak it out. I'm gonna have to like physically say something to balance out my reality. So it just depends. But it's so fascinating to know that everything is everything
Mm-hmm.
is you.
Yeah.
And so the deeper you go in, the more you can feel it inside, the
Yeah.
more everything shifts.
Yeah, I think maybe in this moment, I'm a slow learner, but you know that, um, okay, so saying it's never them, it's always me, or it's always me, like that's what I've always heard. And rightfully so, but maybe it's, it's me. I should look at it differently. Like it's me creating all this. So if I'm creating all this, why even why would I spend any time more than a moment of knowing what is or what isn't, or what I need to do? Like take this in myself, or why am I seeing that? Oh, I've been there, seen that, done that. I'm going to go do this because it's me. Or really, I guess ultimately, it's as a quantum thought creator, what I'm looking at. If I'm projecting it on them, then I'm just keeping the old going. If I'm saying anything about them other than I am so their souls, or however you equate it, uh, yeah,
It's fascinating. It really, really is. And one of the things that I've noticed is that people are, I mean, because we're all connected, obviously.
mm-hmm.
And when we come into a reality, all of our fields merge. And I learned the person with the more expanded the more expanded state of consciousness is the one who gets to hold on to that field more.
I got you.
And I've noticed that people are then playing things out that they're reading from me that I need to work through. And this is why like people will always reflect something
Yeah.
back
Well, the
of something
yeah,
of something inside of you that you still have to go in and own and feel and resolve.
yeah.
And the last time this happened, it was actually New Year's Eve, and I could tell, and it was like really fat. It was literally like I was watching TV, and it was like they're just battling things out that I needed to work through. So I, in that moment, took myself out of that reality. I went outside. I actually went out to my ceiling, and I had to just work that, like, cry it out and just because I could tell it was mine, and I was like, "Oh, thanks for telling me that I'm still working on this."
Hmm.
Um, and I had to, because I wasn't even involved. We were eating, and this happened amongst family. And as soon as I stepped out, I was like, "Oh shit, this is mine. I'm working through this." And they read my field, and they acted on it to
Wow.
show me.
Wow.
And in that moment, I'm like, "Okay, I gotta go. I gotta feel this out," because it was a pretty big one for me. So I
Well,
went
yeah. I mean,
upstairs and just
by yourself.
got it all out. And sure enough, I mean, probably after I left, that everything calmed down. That's how I felt. Like, oh, I left this reality, and everybody just started talking about something else. And I was like, oh wow, it's so fascinating. When you start to open up and observe so many
Mm-hmm.
things, it's like it's you.
Yeah. That was a great description. The way you led into that. The person with the biggest consciousness, the the most expansive awareness, I guess
And I,
really it has the most influence on the situation, and certainly for
yeah,
themselves, right?
yes.
So
And
like the yeah.
I have to say this came from Lisa Transcendence Brown. When she said that, I was like, oh, this makes sense.
What was that?
The
Oh, the
person
person.
with the person with the highest, the most expanded space of consciousness, expanded state of consciousness, is the one that gets to hold the field of the entire reality.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think that's I think that's the only. I think there's another way to say it. Because when I really think about it, this is the inevitable that we started talking about at the top of the show. There is no in between. It's all you, So you could say it that way. Although to me, we've spent enough time like arguing with the ego, or being made a fool by the ego, because it's been tough. I think being in light worker circles, I just saw this thing on the video. I wanted to download it and play it, and it was a CNN broadcast that was showing, I think, a spaceship. And the lady was saying there are people all over the world that call themselves starseeds on the mainstream media today. They call themselves starseeds, that they have been incarnated here to save the world or turn the world around. You know what I'm talking about? So we live this. And this is what I've always said about Soulogy. Whatever this is, take it mainstream. How do you do that? And maybe that's what happened today. I don't know. But to have actually be even one person, all the people who have been on this show, all the people that haven't been on it, the people that like us, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, some of them had elementals, and some of them had angels, and some of them had galactics. Some had all the above. Some had none of it. Some had animals, whisperers, but they all had it happen. So that was a lot for our egos, and I think that's a big part of what we worked out, was not only to be awakened and become aware of who we are, but to take the journey of the human to gain a humility never seen before, never even possible before. And I don't know why I went on that rant. I sound like a preacher.
Well, it's really interesting you said that, because there is, when you said humility, it's almost like, I don't know if you've seen that meme of this little person jumping out the platform that says ego, and then jumping in another platform that says spiritual ego.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
We all land there, man.
Of course. How could we not? It's seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's a normal thing.
I remember doing this show way back, like, 20, let's see, 2017, maybe, early 2017, where I was just grabbing people, and I remember people, well, I'm only saying this just as an observation of where we come from, but I can remember having experiences where the mirror that was with me, which means it was me because I was just as egoic, I'd say, like, what do you do when you get triggered? No, I never get triggered. But we've all gone through that a little bit. How many of us woke up and then we were like telling everybody, and then you see the posts go up, oh, I'm telling all my family, and they don't believe me. They think I'm crazy. So we've come a long way. 555.
We have. And it's just a really normal part of the process, like you said. And there's so many layers to that, and even even when you continuously open up and wake up, and there's going to always be something to just open up to and look at. Of like, oh yeah, I see that. I'm still playing in that game again. Okay, all right. Awareness is key always.
And now it's like a machine gun. It used to be a shotgun. When you get a shotgun blast, like on the first or the second or the third, 2 weeks go by, you have integration, you have downtime, and now we get like a machine gun, but we're like different beings now. We can handle it. It's like boom, boom.
Yes.
It's not like we don't get feel a little sting now and then. It's not like that, but it's the highs are very, very palpable.
You're right.
The shifts, the knowing, let me ask you this, because I know you're lit, because I've known you for like 3 or 4 years, and I just know your energy because of your work too. Where do your abilities stand? Like, I'm talking, have you had like a change in like memory, code, whatever psychic abilities, whatever dimensional experiences, ability to connect.
It's so fascinating just to see the evolution of how I'm saying we, but because I feel like it's kind of a normal thing of like how you start with kind of the basics of like the energy work. So I back for I don't even remember 4 years ago, um, when I decided to go all in, it was like an intuition course, and so I took an intuition course, which opened me up to like deeper levels of like energy and psyche and reading energy and talking to guides and spirit and stuff like that. Um, it's interesting how it's evolved in a way that it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier, where like the energy is coming through more organically from me instead of me pulling it out from outside as an
Right,
information.
right.
And the the consciousness and the awarenesses that come through for me when I'm like reading someone or just reading into the energies, it feels like much more expansive.
Hmm.
And it's not so much of because one of the things that I've learned throughout my journey is it is that does tie into spiritual ego, and I've recognized it within myself of like wanting to answer everyone's question.
Mm. Well, yeah.
Gi- Everybody gives their power away to people that
Mm.
feel they know more. And one of the things for
Mm.
me, it's always been like, no, but you know this information. I just want to open you up so you start
Mm.
accessing it for yourself.
That was worth the whole show right there.
And for
That
me,
part. I
one,
mean, seriously, that's. I commend you. I mean, not that
yeah,
my opinion means anything, but I think that's the kind of thing that the goddesses will be uh, stating, and also setting the bar for that humility I was referring to earlier, because they are carrying that, and that is what's what do you call it, compassion, or the mother, or whatever you want to call it. That's what we've been missing.
yeah, there's a lot of different um energies to really open up to. But like the aspect of ourselves that is in this pedestal of like, oh, I'm the psyche and now the healer or whatever the case may be, and you don't hold that, is that's not why we're here.
Hmm.
And so when I started to open up to more to that within myself and in my practice, it was like there is a new level here of support, of healing, of clearing, where it's like we're meant to give each other our power back. We're meant to give our keys back so that each person can realize and recognize and remember that they have the same abilities. They have the
Yeah,
same power. We're just transmitting codes. I'm transmitting codes to support you so that you can remember that.
yeah,
So it's not a dependency, and so
and
that
it,
you don't feel
yeah,
less than.
yeah, yeah. Of course. I mean, that's the whole. My friend says, Ty Hudnall, the brother I make music with. He
Yes.
says he's a esoteric astrologer for like 20 years. But he says 2023 he's going to call the year that the guru falls, but not meaning it in a mean way, meaning it in that people are going to turn towards self empowerment. But yeah, I think it's pretty hard at this point to do a live video, and I hope I don't piss anyone off or anything, because I'm not trying to be cantankerous or mean or whatever. But I really think it would be kind of difficult to have a substantial experience doing a Q&A on the ascension period. Like, in other words, just general. Ask me anything about ascension. Ask me anything about twin flames. Ask me anything about Christ consciousness. Ask me anything about the history of the galactic. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but now if you have like a specialty, or you have like, say you wrote a book and you wrote a book about being in Lemuria or something. Yeah, but just to have like a general, like you said, like I think I have the answer to every question kind of thing. Like, I don't think that's going to fly anymore. I really don't. Even when I listen to like Bashar, it's like, okay, it's like everything else. Even when I look at myself, or as I discovered about myself, I see people. I never have seen people as singular. I've been lucky because I see certain things in them. You know what I mean? And sometimes we see too much of the good and don't look at the, all that we've all went through our journeys as empaths and such. But yeah, I think that would be kind of hard to do. What's going to replace that? How do we proverbially go to school when it's all going to be coming from the same source? I think like part of it's what you said. Let me take you to the door, because I think that's what a practitioner. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like, this is a complete, obviously a reconstruction of our education system and how we teach and just how we live, of like opening up to each person discovering their own answers and discovering a lot of things for themselves.
I like that.
Just kind of being the guide or the stepping stone. Because I've always, ever since I remember, it's like everything's inside, everything's in your DNA, like absolutely everything. It's just that it comes in layers and it comes in phases because there's so much junk inside that we have no access to. And so continuously opening up, like you said, showing them to the door, going with them so they can find their own keys that we all have inside of us, so that we continuously remember.
Yeah.
Right? It's a whole remembering process we're going through right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, we use the word trigger. I mean, I'm talking about not the same thing exactly you're talking about, but the pattern of it. So like triggering, like if you're really in the density, I guess you could premeditatively go want to trigger somebody, or maybe you have unconscious program. But we're along the road now, so, and we still get triggered like New Year's Eve, right? But we're doing what you did. But so if you think about it, what you and the practitioners that have been, so important these last 10 plus years. Because that's really how this thing congealed, right? And how it started to expand. It was really, literally, mouth to mouth, or what do they call it? Word of mouth, like in business. I forget what I was saying, but yeah, that's how it occurred. Okay, so you're basically trading code out, right? I mean, you're at some point there's a code activation, but there's also intention and all that stuff. So some of these things that are happening, I think, are becoming multidimensional. Like
Very.
Right.
Yes.
It's not meditation. It's not a visualization. Like if you look at Morgan's groups, and I know some other women are doing groups, there's a lot of silence. There's a lot of, okay, like when she started, when she got the downloads, it was, we're going to go to the New Earth Grid. Well, what's that? Well, we go to the New Earth Grid and everybody's quiet and see what happens. Then you start having these reviews afterwards, and they're like, hey, I saw this big column of light. And they're like, I saw that big column of light, and then it just keeps going. There was another example of this. Oh, I guess another example would be like tie with the music, with no words or improvised words or no words, or like sound, sound, vibration, resonance. But the silence really seems to integrate immediately in the moment, if given space, the space to, for the silence.
Yes. Well, and that ties in with, you know, part of, I guess, my second answer to what you had asked earlier is allowing the energy, your higher self energy, to take over.
Mm.
And just, allowing that to be where the real work, is done, whether you're conscious of it or not. You're in complete surrendered mode at that moment.
Mm.
And it's easier to allow the light to show you, to guide you, to clear, heal, repair. So with what you mentioned about no words, it's powerful
Mm-hmm.
because we're so used to, word communicating, or even like, thinking and then letting it come out through words. It's almost like because it's all in the head, the linear head. Um, it's it's taken over at some level, and so it's always been, for what I'm trying to say is like, when you stop just and open yourself up, no thinking, no words, it's like you open up this humongous portal for more to actually occur in any kind of session, in any kind of exchange, where yeah, sometimes no words are needed.
Yeah.
All you need is that open heart, open space, and miracles happen.
Yeah.
And I share that with people that are like, oh, well, what do I do? And what do I say to this? And blah, blah, blah. It's like, sometimes it's nothing at all. Sometimes it's just you being so fully opened in that space with that person. And like I always say, energy is always going to be felt. Energy it speaks for itself.
Mm.
And with the silence, there's a lot of moments of silence that I've now noticed, when I do groups or just private sessions where there's a lot of silence that wasn't there before.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that space, that space of allowing for things to occur without you consciously almost being aware of it. You're just like fully
Yeah.
surrendered.
Yeah. It's funny how information comes in as you're hearing things from the mirror. I feel like these shows are a session. They are for me. So that's,
They
I get
are.
a different practitioner every day. But it's reminded me of my childhood. How big is your family? Is your family a lot of kids
Well,
or
so my
cousins? Or?
immediate is just brother, sister. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
the third. But my dad comes from 12 brothers and
Okay,
sisters,
there
and
you
my
go.
mom comes from 7 brothers and sisters.
Okay, there you go. You know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
when you were a kid and you would go to, or go to someone's house we had 5 kids, another one had whatever, but the whole point was, and we had friends, we had 2 families and they both had like 5 kids. I think one of them had like 6 or 7 kids, and they were like friends. We used to do a lot of things with them. And what you would notice is that everybody in the house talked really loud, and they almost like screaming. And so you get older and you realize they had to be heard. And then there was the
Mhm.
whole patriarchal stamp deep in the Mexican culture. You know that. So there was that whole thing, like the loud. You know what I mean? Like we
Yes.
had to be like you know what I mean? And I know this sounds crazy because I have what people call a talk show, and but it's been a real evolution, and a lot of it was pointed out to me by Morgan. Like I know I was a good listener when I started, but then like everything else in the ascension, right? You find out I wasn't listening at all. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but the same thing's kind of happened, but it's taking like conscious effort because I know I know there's something to be said by everyone, and I guess on my own journey, I'm finding like where's that less or more? Less is more,
Mm.
and where do you wait? Like in music, Ty has told me or taught me there's these what they call pockets, which are pauses. So if I'm doing lyrics and he's playing and there's a guitar player, there might be a little, and you can jump in, and then the musicians respond. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, where's the
Mm.
pocket?
Yeah.
Where's the pocket? And sometimes doing the shows in the last few months, they come, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it's the pocket of creation where you just get to let everything unfold. And then in that moment, you get to feel like, okay,
Hmm.
what do I do now? How do I flow with this? Do I say anything? Do I not? Do I let
Yeah,
other
yeah,
people?
yeah. What's cool is you find out you don't have to say anything. You
Um,
can say okay. You don't have to say anything. But really, you don't have to. I think that's been a big kind of a change in the last probably 18 months. I don't know. I've noticed it in my life because I would get people saying, "Hey, why don't you answer me?" Or and now, like even when I got here, my kids, because they're 21, 22 years old, and so everything's texting, and they'll send me a text and they'll send me another one, and a day or two goes by. It's not because I'm uh, not wanting to talk to them; it's because I'm doing whatever I'm doing. But what I notice is I don't even think about it. I don't think, I hope, you know what I
mm,
mean? I don't think about their feelings, not in a selfish way, just in it's a new realm kind of way. Like you were talking
mhm.
about, we're having to learn fast and get used to it.
Well, and even with that space, it's like we're no longer in the need to fill the space with
Yes.
unnecessary words or
Oh, I
unnecessary
love that.
like
You need to
we just
do,
create more space, more and more space.
yeah, you need to do a meme. Don't feel, FILL, feel, FEEL. Don't feel, just feel. But you're right. That's what we will do. We will try to fill the
Mhm.
space, and it's not in a judgmental way, but in a reflection of the conditioning and the programming. It's just not authentic. It's not who we are, and it looks like the way this thing operates is how the way that equal energy exchange we come into align with it, which is always present, but we got to be conscious here to make it flow, I guess, or be in its flow. Um, is to be ourselves. That
Mhm.
and to remember we are energy. So if you're being yourself and your heart's kind of vibrating and you're feeling you know what I mean. Uh,
Yeah.
and even if
And
you're going
sometimes,
even if you're going into the down and dirty, that's
mhm,
energetically choosing yourself and being
yes,
yourself and doing what's best for you.
yes. And just allowing ourselves to take the time necessary to go through that
Yeah.
because before it was like all very like everything was fast, speed, gotta reply, gotta just everything just go, go,
Right.
go, go, go. And now, reversing the polarity of that, it's like now I don't have to. Now I can take my time. Now I can create more space. Now it's me that is in that quote unquote control of like when I'm ready, when it's appropriate, when I feel the go, then I will say, reply, whatever the case may be.
You know, I don't know if I ever asked you this before, but I've done a lot of research over the last 10 years, and just to get information, whatever. UFOs in Mexico, ET presence, star family presence. I mean, I don't. I'm not well versed enough to speak on it, but there just seems to be some deep, 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 deep roots there. And I was wondering because I don't know how big the capital is where you live, but I know you've been there. You're familiar enough with the country. Do people act like they do in the U.S. about UFOs and the government? Do they act about it? Do people talk about it? Do they acknowledge it? Is it even brought up?
Well, I'm going to talk about my collective. The collectives that I've noticed aren't so open yet.
Mm.
But at the same time, I feel more people. It's like closet. They're
Mm.
still kind of in the like they are open more than they probably say they are, but they're still kind of in the closet. What's really interesting about that you just mentioned is recently I've been seeing, and even I'm about to be here 2 years, and I haven't seen as much activity in the skies as I have in the past two
Really?
months.
You
Yes,
haven't? You haven't seen it?
I have now.
Oh, you have.
Now it's like anomaly, an anomaly. It just really, really stuff that I haven't actually even seen in the U.S.
Well, I know
And
it's the.
obviously, just where I am in my journey also, makes take its influence. But um, recently, it's like back to back to back, just seeing a lot of stuff in the sky.
Well, well, it'll be interesting to see because our um, I'll just say this: our bullshit detectors are in prime condition. I think now that we've because the more true we become with ourselves, the more we are sensitive to truth. So you know,
Yes.
this could be so many things. It could be there are no ETs. There's cytronic messages, and we
Mhm.
get downloads, and there's this big simulation, or it could be uh, all of it, which I think it is. Inner Earth, planetary, off universe, everything. I mean, this is like the
Well, and
whole. Yeah,
when you talk dimensionally,
yeah.
there's a different truth for each dimension, and there's so many different things happening in each dimension.
I just imagine like how will this happen? Like, how would you actually happen? How would it actually happen if it wasn't through like what we might call natural catastrophe, like a flood, like a worldwide flood, and then again nobody would know anyway. We'd all just be, up in the clouds. But like for for the or let's just say for the literal percentile majority of the world to go snap, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not gonna give my power away. Uh, to me, it would be like there is the landings. Um, it's such like say they're like a million years ahead of us, so far ahead of us, we just realize that they're benevolent, or they would just kill us, or whatever the case is. But the point being that the power structures that we have on the earth, what would it make? What would it take for the people in a majority of the world to look at the power structures in a 180-degree difference and just realize that this truth or this ET family or whatever it is that has come into our awareness is so far beyond us. You ain't shit, and I'm not listening to you no more. You're not my governor no more. You're not my church no more. You know what I mean? Like something.
Yeah.
I would love to see something like that. That's why. That's why I kind of ponder it.
Well, I feel like it's happening. It's happening, and what I feel, what you actually answered, I feel the question with the last thing you said about, um, well, let me just say this. The more 3D goes deeper and deeper into the hole and collapses and just gets worse and worse and worse, the
Mm,
more open people are going to be
mm,
to an alternative. And so we're hitting that
mm,
phase though, but it's still gonna be a deeper collapse of people's personal reality. for people to say, what the hell's going on?
And
No more.
as within, without, right? I see what
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
saying too. Think about it. I mean, if literally more of the 3Ds is falling into the quicksand, it's happened with us, etherically, and even starting to happen physically with healing and instant healing and just different things, where we lighten up, and what happens? A higher, uh, a higher illumination comes in. So if it's as above below, as within without, and let's say that more of the three enough of the 3D collapses that people, like you say, become open, and then so really energetically, that's what's happened. And so now you have
Yes.
spaceships landing. The only difference is, and I'm just using that as a metaphor. Nobody get excited. The difference is, if it had happened a year ago when we had too much density, we would have been more fearful or whatever. And now uh, that's not the case. And what you're saying is, yeah, the collapse is, well, the collapse is the expansion. Here we are again. Chicken and the egg.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Chicken and the egg.
right.
Yeah.
And we're just it's prepping. Everything right now is prepping us to just open up more and more and more to things that we haven't been open, that people have denied and refused, and all of these different things, so
Yeah.
that they don't become scared because people fear what they don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I really, one of the things I'm really looking forward to this Soulogy networking community. So people, I mean, we'll create the template, and again, just like imagine Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all in one, and then people will go build their not unrestricted universe. Their unrestricted. I thought maybe we should have called it real book. So you had fake book, now we got real book. Well, because you have no censorship. No,
That's
and
fun.
again, I'm not saying this about so much about Soulogy. It's just the energetic pattern that it represents. That it's not the only one in the world. Okay, because it's all
Hmm.
coming from the triad, right? Anyway, but my point is like um, the people, just like the world, just like the universe, they build it. Nobody builds it. Nobody owns it. It's built. It's all transparent. But for Todd to have that, and not to be like, doing what I've been doing all the time, whatever the case is, and be able to choose to do something, I can't wait to have a 30-minute or whatever period every day where I get on and able to say the things that haven't been able to be said. Okay, that we all could gain from talking about it. I don't mean just me talking. Like
Hmm.
Anana came on the other day talking about her lineage as an Anunnaki, and what piece they bring to the table, and it was the value was in the story. The value was accepting every piece of the jigsaw puzzle, right? And I think there's things that we haven't been able to talk about, and I'm not talking about so much about COVID and this and that. Not that these aren't relevant and important. I'm talking about more of our personal experience that would be subjected to ridicule and censorship that hold great code because it's more of that energy of, oh, I'm not the only one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for this opportunity because
Hmm.
um, we do we there's a moment where more of us are going to be ready and guided to share more of what we've
Yeah.
experienced,
Yeah.
and that activates so much.
Yeah, it's time. I believe it's time. And it's time
Yes.
because it's time, and it's time because I'm tired. And I think a lot of us energetically said that.
Oh,
You heard people talking
yes.
about it. You heard people, beam me up and all that. But I mean, you started to hear people say, you know what, man? I mean, I had many talks over 3 or 4 months. I'd say probably, I want to say probably October, November, December, January. Like, hey, team, let's have a come to Jesus meeting tonight. It'll be 10 o'clock in my bedroom. And, hey, you know what? If we don't see some real progress, and I'm not being cocky, I'm just telling you, I'm tired. My soul's tired. Then I'm ready to go. I'll go on to the next assignment. And I think a lot of people, but which was probably a reflection of our multidimensional selves kicking ass and taking names in the ethers.
Yes. And we all have to get to that space where like we're tired. And it's so fun. I mean, I've gotten to that space recently. I was in bed. I was, just feeling into this collectively. We're getting into, we're tired. We're done.
Yeah.
No fighting. Like, let's just move on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, it was good seeing you. It was very good
Likewise,
seeing you.
Todd. Thank you so much, as
Yeah.
always.
We'll have to catch up later in the year and see what's happening. And
Yes.
thanks for coming in and sharing space. And all blessings to the Holy Triad that you have found yourself in, and to all your family, and to whatever you get into, whatever your higher self gets you into.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Likewise.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I might come back on a little bit later. We'll see. Bye-bye, Samantha. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye-bye.